What's up, guys? So I showed you that video of the knife that I got in the Yabo that was completely seized, rusted shut, and I was actually pretty excited about it, cleaning it up and seeing what I could come up with, and put a couple hours of work into it, and I'm going to unveil it right now, talk about it a little bit. It's actually a quite fascinating knife, but with no further ado, here it is. And yes, there's still a bunch of crap on there, which I'm assuming has to be like roof tar or like industrial glue or something, because that is not coming off easy. But this is now a functioning knife. Pretty cool, pretty interesting. Did sharpen it up. I'll do a cut test for you in a second here. But I just want to talk about this knife a little bit because it's very rich in history. And as I showed in the video, one of my wife's favorite knives, and she does have a few of them, is the same knife, just a larger version of it. Alright, so these knives are called Higonokami, I think. Higonokami is a Japanese word, I don't know, I butchered it. Higonokami. Higonokami? Not gotta work here anymore. That's my office space watchers. But anyway, yeah, it's a very interesting knife, known as the penny knife, from my understanding. And these were basically the most common knives in Japan. The late 1800s, early 1900s, when the Japanese sword makers, slowed down quite a bit. The demand for swords in Japan dropped significantly, so they started making these knives, little pocket knives. And it's a very simple design. It's a little friction folder. There's no locking mechanism. Basically, we just have a blade and a one-piece handle, and if you could tell, it's one sheet of metal that's just folded over. All right. So that's it. Look on the end, it's easier to see that, but it's just one flat piece of metal that was folded over into a handle and then just riveted together. It doesn't get any, more simplified than this. Now, what's interesting, which I noticed right away as I started to clean it, is what I thought was literally rusted out handle, like it was missing material. This is actually a common design, which I did not know. I have two of these knives. As you can see, this one does not have that design. So even though I've seen these before, I've never seen it with that cutout, and after looking it up more and more, there's a lot of these. It's actually quite a common design, which is pretty cool because when this is closed, as you start closing the blade, right about here, it gets a little bit harder to close. I mean, it's not hard to close, you push it right in, but it wants to pinch in the handle a little bit, which keeps it in place. So basically, if you were to close it so that it's kind of flush up here, you have a little bit of that handle sticking out. So it gives you a relief in the handle, so you can actually grab that blade if you don't push it in all the way. All right, so just enclosing it like that, you can get a little pinch grip, actually grab it like that, as opposed to using the top here. All right, now you can see the top of the blade. Again, the blade is just one piece of metal, but it extends out and it's flattened for that exact use, where you use your thumb to initiate the opening of that blade, and now it's open. And then also, once it's open, your thumb being pushed down on here keeps it from closing. Okay, I mean, obviously if you get a grip like this, it might help from closing a little bit, but it's not nearly as secure because this is still, easily foldable. It can pop out of the part of your hand here, but your thumb on the back of there keeps it from closing on your finger since there is no locking mechanism. Okay, but very interesting knife. We'll have a little Japanese history here. Now you can kind of make out there's some Japanese characters here, just like on this one, and this is supposed to be who made the knife. At least, historically, they would write who the knife maker was and also what blade steel it had. So if you guys, you're not going to be able to make that out at all, but if you can read that, let me know what it says down below. But yeah, very interesting. They come in different styles, different shapes and sizes. This one, because it was completely rusted, I just assumed it had a brass handle like this. This has a brass handle, obviously stainless blade, where this one is not. This is all stainless. But pretty darn interesting. Very cool. So let me tell you what I did. The first thing I did was, after I shut the camera off of that video, I worked on it right away. I completely soaked this in ballistol. I took a paper towel, put it down on the table, folded it up a couple times, put it down, like soaked it. Bunch of ballistol, flipped it over, bunch of ballistol. So I was swimming in the stuff. Wrapped it in the paper towel, put it in a baggie, let it sit aside for like an hour. Okay, after an hour, came out, used just a wire brush, and hand started scrubbing that rust off. And there was a lot of rust. After that, more ballistol, and Another maybe like 10, 15 minutes, whatever. Kind of got impatient because I was going to let it sit overnight. I'm like, nah, I don't want to work on it. So wiped it off, clean off again. But the blade was still seized inside the handles. So what I did was I put a screwdriver in the base here and just twisted it slightly, just a little bit of a kind of a prying motion there. And it started to lift away a little bit. So once I had a little bit of a space in between the blade and the handle itself, I sprayed in a bunch of Gooby Gone. All right, and just let that sit for another 5-10 minutes or so, and then just kind of did a little prying, and eventually had it kind of pop open. And then I finally revealed the blade, and then from there, again, just tons more ballistol, scrubbing with the wire brush. Eventually, once I had it so that it was opening and closing, then what I did was use some lighter fluid, because again, lighter fluid, like the Gooby Gone, it kind of takes off some of the goop and glue residue and stuff like that. Wiped it down as much as I possibly could. Then I took some 1500 grit sandpaper and started, smoothing the surfaces. Now this looks pretty rough, but it's not. It's actually very smoothed out. All the stuff that's still stuck to the handles are extremely smooth to the touch. It's barely even textured there. It just looks worse than it is. And same with the blade too, and all the flats. Stayed like with the grind here and just sanded down as much as I possibly could. And that's pretty much it. So it looks like there's still a bunch of gunk on there, and some of it is probably pitting. The darker areas, it may look like there's something on the blade, but it may just be that the actual surface is, pitted and now it's stuck inside, if that makes much sense. But yeah, it is now a very workable, functional knife. Got a piece of paper here. Give you a little cut test on this. All right, so I basically had to reprofile it because the edge itself was just, 90% of it was gone. It was just flat because of the rust. Down here towards the bottom was actually, kind of usably sharp, to be honest. I don't know why, just the way it was sitting in there. It didn't really corrode too much on the bottom here, but the whole top portion was just really as flat as the spine. So just kind of reprofiled it and then worked it on some stones. Did it all by hand. I broke out some of my old sharpening stones, and I might do a video in the future again, hand sharpening. But in the beginning, it was really rough. I'm not sitting there taking like nice, easy passes, light strokes, taking my time. No, I was like doing circles, just trying to quickly grind it down to an actual edge. Then I went and refined that edge and eventually, polished it up, a little bit of Flitz polishing paste on an old belt, and stropped it, and there it is. It's nice and sharp now, and nice and functional. But really interesting knife. Again, can't pronounce the name of it, but you guys probably, some of you might know what it is. If you don't, I will put it either in the description or in the title of the video or somewhere, or someone will write it, and you can Google it and learn more about this knife. And there's tons and tons of them out there for sale. I do like the straight, handle here. It's what I've been so used to, all this time. But I gotta say, I kind of like this little cutout here. Again, for when it's closed, you can do a little pinch grip as opposed to using the top here. So there you go, guys. Pretty interesting knife. Very interesting in its history and its usage, and available to all. There's tons of them on the internet, all different variations. I've seen, even some custom makers mimicking this exact design with some premium materials too. So if you want to get something high end or more expensive, you certainly can. But there's tons of the cheap ones. It's just like I said, pretty cool. It's very JDM. So if you're into the Japanese stuff and you want to translate over to some cutlery and get something interesting from Japan in your knife collection, this is definitely a good place to start. I thought about finishing this completely, because you can get this thing looking brand new, more aggressive sanding and polishing and stuff, but I think I'm going to leave it. You guys let me know down in the description what you think, but I love the character of how it is right now. And even though it looks dirty and nasty, whatever, it's not. It's nice and smooth. It's completely cleaned out and very functional. So pretty cool. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Take care.